Hello everyone. Today we're going to look at a use case where when users try to access the HANA database directly using a tool like HANA Studio, maybe some SQL editor, how do you protect data in that particular scenario? So, we have seen scenarios where in SAP application level you can control using NextLabs policies. But what if let's say if a database administrator, a DBA or a sysadmin trying to connect to the database directly via editors and all. So we'll see in this particular demo, we'll look at it how you can actually enforce the policies like a masking policy or a filtering policy, or even a DML, kind of restricting whether a user can insert data or update or delete data. So we'll take a look at that and see how you can use a policy to do that. So this is a high level overview. So I'm going to use HANA Studio and I have HANA database at the backend. We'll do different actions and different scenarios and see how the studio will behave once we have the policies activated. Now let me log into the system here. I'm going to connect to my HANA Studio. Okay, so this is my HANA Studio. I'm in the HANA Studio here. This is the HANA database connecting to one of my database in the local system. And I'm actually using a table called TIBAN underscore copy. It's from HANA DB schema. And I logged in as a DBA. Now the requirement is that when I look at this particular table data, so this table contains some sensitive data. Like for example, there is a IBAN, which is a bank key related to bank accounts in SAP. So as a DBA, when I try to look at this data, I should see a masked data. I should not be able to see the actual data for IBAN. So that's the requirement we set up here. Let me execute this query and see what happens. So I'm selecting multiple fields from this particular table and let's try to execute it and see. Okay, so you can see here, you see that there are multiple records shown up. There are around 48 rows shown up here. And if you notice, if you look at the 4 records in the top, so there is a masking applied on IBAN field. You are seeing a star, star, star. This is actually coming from a policy. So the policy that we have is that if the bank country equal to QA or AT and the bank key equal to QNB, then mask IBAN. So that is the policy we have. So that's why only subset of the records have the masking. The other, he's able to see. So this way, either you can completely mask for all the records, or you can put a condition that only certain records are sensitive. And that way, the DBAs will also see the mask value for unauthorized records. One thing to note is that, even though he's seeing a mask value in HANA Studio, at the database level, it is still an actual value. So we don't change anything at the database level. So it is not a persistent masking, but it is more of dynamic masking only at the time of displaying data into the studio or any client. At the time of displaying data, that's where we actually do the masking. It's kind of a dynamic that happens in the runtime. So that's why it's called dynamic data masking. So this is actually one of the key features that we have part of the DAE for database. So you can actually mask any field based on the policy that you write. Okay, so let's take a look at how can you control different transactions like update statement or delete or insert. Different DML statements are there on the database. So we have written a policy that the DBAs, they can only update records where bank country equal to QA or AT. Right? If they try to update for another country, then that update should not happen. So that is a requirement we have. So for example, let's take a look at, I'm trying to execute this statement. It's an update statement where I'm updating the bank country where country equal to US, right? But the policy says he should not be allowed to do it. He's not allowed because the policy can only allow him if the country equal to QA. So let's try to execute this and see what happens. Okay, so you can see that the statement is executed, but the rows affected is 0. So that means even though the statement is actually executed, but there's nothing that can take effect because that is actually denied or that is actually prohibited by the policy. So it let the update statement execute successfully, but then basically doesn't make any changes in the database. That's a kind of enforcement that we do. Similar to that update scenario, you can also do a delete. We can try delete as well, or insert. So maybe if you look at some standard application like SAP, ideally nobody should go and update database directly. But even if you're a DBA, even if you have super privileges, you're not supposed to update data because data has to come from transactional system where people do transactions in SAP. So nobody should go into the backend, go directly to the database and make some changes. So let's try to insert data into the table and see how the policy will actually stop him. So I have a insert statement again here. I have a statement on I copy to, which again a table which is similar to PI-BAN copy. We have policy for both the tables. Let's try to execute this statement and see what happens. Okay, so if you see here on the log, it just could not execute insert into denied by policy. Value of effect type is denied. So this particular message is actually coming from the policy. So we have a policy that actually denies insertion of data into the database for this particular table. So you can define which table are restricted and for which user, whether you want to restrict only for DBA or for somebody else. So you can also define those criteria. And you can do much more granular based on different attributes. For example, US versus non-US, or regular employee versus contractors, or somebody with ITAR clearance versus non-ITAR clearance. So with the different attributes and different combinations, you can write different policies, and then they will take effect in the studio, and all the activity will be enforced using the policy. So the same concept can be applied to any application that is built on top of the database. Like for example, even if a custom application, maybe a Java application built which is running on Oracle, or maybe HANA DB, in all those applications, you can actually put these policies so that when the application interacts with the database, the policy will be affected, and then policy will control access to the data. Okay, so this concludes this particular use case. Thank you.